Alright, this is Access project number 3, recording due to a problem with classroom recording. I was playing music and didn't realize it was still playing when I was recording. And here's a little tip for you. If you don't want somebody to take your to make a YouTube video uploaded, just play some copyrighted music in the background, and YouTube will refuse to publish it if it realizes there's copyrighted material. And I've seen that used occasionally for people to bother TikTokers to not record them. They just have music playing in the background. So that was what would happen, and that's why we're doing this recording. Okay, so here's what we're doing with this. We are starting project number 3, basically where you would probably be introduced to data or be using databases out there in the work world, where someone has created a database for you, but it's up to you now to actually use it. You may be the data entry person, where you are being asked to add or change records in a database, and they will have created these forms for you. So you may not have to worry about creating forms, but now that you know how to create forms, you will know whether these people are charging you too much for what they're doing for you, because you've done it before in Access. And you can ask them things like, hey, have you updated this database, or have you backed up this database before you let me make these changes? Because it's a very important information. Do we have a backup? Ask those questions regularly of your system admin people, and they will know that they can't fool you. We're going to learn to do some of these things with the database, and let's get going then. We're going to start with a database that we have used already, or we've made progress, project 2, but rather than, and you could start with your project 2, but I do have in this assignment the starting point, AC3. I'm going to download that from Populi, and then I will open that. So I'm going to store that in a nice location here in my documents, and I'm going to rename it according to standard here. JSmart is my username, and AC3 is the project, and I'll call it, it's a vets DB. Saving that, and then I'm going to open that. Okay, so now that I've downloaded it, I'm just going to click on it here. Windows knows, based on the suffix of the file, that Access is what should be used to open that file. Remember, Windows knows files just based on their suffix. Okay, so we have our database here. Here's our tables. Notice the queries from chapter 2 are not there. We're not going to need them most of the time, and if we need a query, we can rebuild it. Alright, so we're going to maintain this database. First of all, let's just see that we have data. There's our appointments table, various appointments for different patients, the treatment that they're getting, who the veterinarian is, and the owner. And close it when I'm done. Owners, multiple owners added in section 2, in project 2. Multiple patients, treatments and their costs listed here with the name of the treatment and the treatment number. Veterinarians that are associated with our vet, and vendors that supply equipment to us, or supplies to us. Right now, quantity is a integer number, cost is a currency, 2 decimals. Okay, so as we go down to our database, we see that we might want to update a record. Let's go to our vendors. We have some vendors we're going to modify. We have a new vendor we're going to add. Now, I could edit it right here, but we're going to create a thing called a split form, because some people are a little bit nervous about editing it in this format. You aren't, of course, because you're familiar with it. But let's make it easy for anyone by creating a special kind of form called, under More Forms, under Create, More Forms, a split form. This allows us to edit either in the lovely, very user-friendly form view or the datasheet view. And down here at the bottom, I can navigate one record at a time, going down or up, going forward and backward, or clicking in the row. Takes me to that row and takes the form to that row. Let's go down to the very bottom, clicking there, or if I clicked on the bottom arrow star right there, I would then go to the last row. Okay, we're going to enter information, Duncan Veterinary Supplies. Actually, no, that was the first row. We want to enter a new record, and I have to go down to there. We are entering a new record for a particular vendor. Here we go. Global Pet Supply is the vendor name. Global Pet Supply. I'm going to enter first in the form view. Global, click on the form. Oh, I need to go to the form view. For some reason it puts me in layout view. We want to go to form view, so now we can enter data. It's kind of silly that it does that, but we have to be in form view, Global Pet Supply. It automatically gives an ID of 6, street address 1002 Western Way. I tab to go to the next entry, City of Dallas. Tab takes me to state. This is called the tab order. Now I could also enter the data down here in datasheet view, and zip code of 70001. I don't see the change until I tab to the next column or click off of the row. Veterinary supply is feline leukemia vaccine. Quantity is 50 and the cost is $9.75. Now right away I see in the quantity I always have to have an integer number in quantity, but perhaps they are giving me fractional amounts like 10.5 ounces or 20.5 pounds of material. I might want to allow that, and that we'll see what we're going to doing next as we adjust our format. But first of all, before we go on, we have a supplier here that no longer is working with us. Most often we don't delete data from databases. That's why databases have a tendency to grow very large. In this case, we're going to delete the supplier. Keep in mind, if we delete the supplier, any treatments that are associated with that supplier, if they're referring to supplier number 5, they will no longer be valid. So, but let's go ahead and delete the supplier anyway. I can just click on the row and click on the gray on that row and hit delete, or right click, cut or delete record, It will give me a warning. You're about to undo this. There is no undo operation. I'm going to go say yes, and even perhaps before I say it, I might ask my sysadmin, you do have a backup of this, just in case I delete the wrong things. Well, they should be able to say yes. So we know that we do have the backup. So I click yes. Notice it does show deleted, even though I haven't said yes yet. Now it actually is deleted, and I have to start a new row, and because of the way the ID is working, it's a little tricky to get back number 5. So be careful deleting records. That's why that warning came up. Now, as we look through our data, I can browse through the data, make changes. I can find things in my records. Let's just do a find. Where's our find? There is our find. And I can just search for something. Perhaps I'm going to search for, how about micro, just the word micro. Right now, the default is current field. How about we choose anything in this document, and I'm not even going to worry about case sensitivity, so I'll leave match case unchecked. Let's see if it finds. Oh, it didn't find it. How about we search in the can I determine the direction? I thought it would actually find micro. Why is it not finding micro? That's interesting. Let me go up here and then try to find next. It did not find micro. Why is I had it select whole field. Let's choose any part of the field. That was my problem. Now let's choose find. There we go. We found microchips. I suppose I could have set that to be start of the field. How about we look for a vaccine with just VACC? VACC. Any part of the field. not just this current field. Now I'll find next. It finds that vaccine, and let's see if it wraps around when I click find next again. Yes, it does wrap around to find it the next time. So anything with VACC, and I see I had spelled that wrong. Let's go ahead and correct that spelling. Anytime you edit this, it is editing the table. Alright, so we're done with that. And we can close that, saving my split form. And because I was on AC page 3 dash, I think it was about AC 3-4, we're going to save this with a slightly different name. Because this is the first save, I can put the page number AC 3-4. I'm going to put 04 so they get sorted properly in case I have more forms. I could have given the name split form. How about at that? I'm going to edit the name, rename. I'm going to edit the name split form. Split form. Just to remind me, because the icon doesn't indicate whether it's a normal form or a split form. I kind of wish they would actually have the icon showing what kind of form it is. Okay, so we've created a split form. I can open that anytime to edit the contents of the veterinary vendors. Remember, I can always edit it in datasheet view as well, but always close it when you're done. Alright, so we have that. We know how to do a find. And now we deleted the record, we updated a record. Oh, I forgot about the update. There is an update. Let's go do our split form to update the one record. We want to update this guy. I see I have a typo in the corporation. We want to replace corporation with LLC. I'm not making any changes to the format. I tab. It is saved as soon as I leave that cell. And I close it. It doesn't ask me to save because I didn't change the formatting. The data got changed immediately in my Access database. Okay, so I made that quick change. And now I'm going to skip the filtering part that they demonstrate in the book because I don't find it very important. We're going to go to something vital to databases, changing the type of data being stored in our database, which over here on begins on page AC3-15. It shows you can do a lot of things. Let's just go through example. In the veterinary vendors table, let's edit our veterinary vendors table. Remember, when we edit the structure, I right-click Design View, and I want to edit now the structure of that table. Remember how the quantity, let's just look at the table real quick. If I look at the datasheet view, remember quantity is integer value right now. I want to allow fractional amounts in quantity. So let's go back to Design View and see how I would do that. I select the quantity field definition or field properties, and down here, instead of long integer, I'm going to change that to single. Stands for single precision floating point. I'm going to set the format to a format we call, I'm going to choose, in the book they choose fixed. That's right, it isn't cost, it is quantity, so I don't want to choose currency, although it's very similar. I'm going to choose fixed quantity, fixed format, and I'm going to set the number of decimal places, either pull down or type, 2. And now, when I go to Datasheet View, it will say, oh, we have to save these changes. And now think about the change we just made. We are adding the capability of having fractional numbers after the decimal. I am not losing information because integers don't have anything after the decimal. If I were going in the other direction of going from fractional to only integer, it would tell me, hey, you might be losing information. It would give me a warning. This time it just says, save the changes. Doesn't warn me about losing any information because it knows going from an integer to a real number, that's what a single precision floating point is, you're not losing information. But going the other direction, it would say, hey, you might possibly lose information because there might be something after the decimal that I'd be throwing away. So I could now enter fractional numbers here in the quantity. I'm going to leave them alone for now. But there's a significant change I've made. I'm now allowing fractional values in that field. Okay? And that was what we call a design change. It's always safest to do the design changes before I enter data. Let's just put a little comment here saying changed to real numbers, call it single, fixed, 2 decimal, by JSmart, and the date 12/4/25. The database programmer is putting comments in there, makes it readable by other programmers, knowing who made the change, and that it was a significant change in the design. Of course, in a real database, they will go through a whole review, test it, and then tell the customer, oh, we've updated our data. And this is the thing they may charge you for. Hey, we updated the structure, we want to charge you this much. Well, now you have an idea what that means. Okay? And that's in the veterinary vendors table. We will be coming back and adding more changes to this. But now we can add decimal values into the quantity. Now we would like to add a new field to this table. Right now we have quantity and cost. Right above quantity, we would like to add a new field. In order to do that, you just go to the field below where I want to add one and right-click, Insert Rows. And now the type, or the name of the field I want to call it, is product type. Product type. Okay. The default is short text, but we're going to choose something different here. We're going to choose a value type called lookup wizard that allows me to allow certain things. Well, before I make that change, let's put in comments what I want to do. Allow vaccination, microchip, M for MC, or supply. And it's always good to spell things correctly in my comments. How do I do that? Well, let's go to the lookup wizard to help us do this. Lookup wizard lets me choose what is going to be selected here. And I'm going to type in the values I want. And now I click Next. And I'm going to default one column. And I'm going to type in the various values aloud. Vac, tab, not enter, MC for microchip, and tab, SIP. Those are the 3 abbreviations for the types of products I would like them to be able to choose from. So a new field, they can choose from product types. Click Next. I'm not going to limit or allow multiple values. For this one, I click Finish. Okay, so I've changed the type, a new field, and what can be done there. It's always safer to add a new field than to change an existing one. Notice it didn't give me a warning because no one else is using this field yet. It's safe. So database programmers, it's safe to add new things to the structure, but to change existing structure, much more chance of breaking something. Okay, let's go to Datasheet View and see how this works. Saving the change I made, yes. And now we have this new column, product type. And let's go to feline rabies. Look at that, I have a pull down and I can choose vaccine. That one should be vaccine. That one's a microchip. Now how they use this, that's up to someone else when they're doing the programming the database. They have a reason for wanting this field. We don't worry about that. We just know how to make the structure change. Now notice, because I did not limit it to list, I could apply something else here, such as, what do I say? What else could we give them? How about some diet, special diet? I could type something else that's not in the list because I did not say limit to list. A Control Z will undo recent changes. Okay, so I can see how now the multiple value field added would behave. And I can close that table and go on now to another change. Now we're going to add a multi-valued field. Now in the book they had us choose, actually type the things that I want. I'm going to show you a better way. It's in a multi-value field. It's going to be added to the appointment table. So let's go to our appointment table, right-click Design, and we want a different way of choosing what treatments. We're going to allow multiple treatments. Let's insert a new row above treatment number. new row. Let's call it treatment type. Yeah, I think it's called treatment type. Look, oh, in the book it's not clear what the name is. The name should be service abbreviation. Service abbreviation. Okay, so let's do service abbreviation here. Service abbreviation. And, better spell it right, service abbreviation. Okay, now I'm going to use the lookup wizard again this time, but show you a little more advanced way of doing it. In the lookup wizard, I'm going to let it look up fields that I know are in another table. Remember, my treatment cost table has all the treatments listed. So let's try that. Instead of typing in values, since I know they're listed here, let's use that. So I'm going to choose look up from another table. The table is in the treatment cost table. The fields are treatment number and the treatment. I'm going to sort by treatment number, ascending, and I do not want to hide the key column. I would like to see that key column. I'm going to uncheck hide it. And now I am also going to adjust my column widths, because I know these are going to be a larger font and will need more room. So I'm going to adjust the column widths here. Oh, look at that. The sorting is, I'm not happy with that sorting. Let's go back and see if we can sort. Let's do non-sorting and see if it comes out better. Oh, it still doesn't come out right. The sorting, I guess I'll leave it that way. I was hoping the sorting would come out correctly. Let me try it without. Let's try it without for now, and see if it actually does come out that way. And then click next. The available field I want to assign when I select it will be the treatment number, and I click next. I do want to allow multiple values. This is the key. We're allowing multiple values. And finish. And save now. Yes, it is creating a thing called relationships. Don't worry about that. We're trusting that it's doing the right thing. Click yes. And let's add a comment here. Multiple allowed. Selection from treatment cost table. Available, I'll say available items in treatment cost table. Now this is different than how the book demonstrates it. You can type them in like we did, or since we had them in a table, why waste time typing them in again? Alright, and now let's view the data, saving the changes I made. And now we have service abbreviation. Let's see what's available there. I'm going to leave room for it here. Click on that and click the pull down. Look at that. I can now choose, and it is sorting it in a strange way. This is why double digits help the sorting. Alphabetic sorting doesn't always come out right. Computers just don't know how to do that right. And so I can say for this feline, I believe that's a feline, I can choose the various feline treatments for that specific appointment. Now, if this were even better, it would only allow it, knowing that's a feline, it would only allow me to select feline-related items. But that's a fancier database I'm not going to worry about. But that might be something we ask our database programmers to do. Notice microchip is the same. That should say feline or canine microchip. But I'll leave it as it is. And now I can see how the multiple choice allows me to show what's going to happen at that particular appointment, allowing multiple choices. So we did it the quick way. Rather than retyping, I chose information from another table. Let's go back to design view and see how that lookup table did this for us. Underneath that properties of that row, I can go down here to the lookup tab and see this row source is basically the SQL language for what a query does. Gets particular information out of a particular table. Now, rather than typing it in ourselves, it actually goes and gets the available treatment costs from the treatment cost table. The wonderful thing about this is if I ever add more treatments, this will automatically show the additional treatments available. Where if I did this by hand, I'd have to come back and either rerun the wizard or figure out how to modify this. So I took a shortcut here, giving you a little more advanced method than what is shown in the book. Now, one more field we're going to add to the treatment cost table, or veterinary vendors table, I believe. Yeah, veterinary vendors table. Let's close this one. We're going to come over to the veterinary vendors table. And we see right now it is calculating quantity and cost. We did have that query that would calculate cost for us. Let's have the data be calculated at the point whenever we change a record in this database. We'll have a field called total cost. Let's do that. Let's go to Design View, Veterinary Vendors, and add another field at the very end called total amount. I think a better term would be total value. I'm going to put total value because total amount can mean different things. In the book they choose total amount. I'm going to choose total value, and I'm going to put in here total value of this item inventory, this item's inventory, in terms of count times item cost. Count times item cost. Okay, how do we do that? Well, we go down here, instead of short text, we come down to calculated. Let's see what happens when I go to calculated. Ooh, what's this? I can build expressions. Well, let's see here. It gives a short example. Now I could try to figure out what square brackets thing to do, but watch what I can do. I can just double click on cost and put the asterisk times and double click quantity. That's the calculation that I want. What I love about this is I avoid the chance of me mistyping the name of the column. And if I mistype the name of the column, bad things happen. It doesn't know what to do. And that's very much like an Excel spreadsheet, multiplying one cell by another. In this case, we're just saying multiply what you see in the cost column by what you see in the quantity column for each record. And I click OK. And now I go to Datasheet View, saving my changes. And look at that. I see total value there. Now if I want to go back to that, let's go back to Design View. Since I know total value is a currency, is dollar figures, let's change the result type from double to, guess what? Currency. Since I know it's a cost, let's make that a currency value. So when I view my table, it is clear to anyone seeing the data, they know that is a dollar value. That's why I like using the value rather than the total amount. Amount can mean different things, but now it's clear. It's a value, and the dollar sign tells me, oh yeah, it's a value. And remember, the dollar sign came because I said, show it in currency format, or remember the result is a type of currency. Very much like in Excel where I say, display this in the currency format. Alright, so now we know how to create a field that whenever I change the quantity, let's add one more. As soon as I make that change and leave that column, the tab or arrow down, immediately it recalculates the total value of that order. Say this represents the amount that I can order every time I order supplies from that particular vendor. Again, that's up to the database designer what these numbers mean and how they're used. Okay, so I made the change to, I've added a new column to the veterinary vendors table and close it. Always good to close things when I'm done. And that's it for project 1. We have made changes to the appointments table, adding the treatment service abbreviation, We've changed the veterinary vendors table to have a choice of what they can choose for a product type. Oh, and I forgot to demonstrate the service abbreviation. It is a multi-valued field. Check marks. This one, or sorry, in this one, we typed in the values to be allowed, going through the wizard, but I can also go down to product type and see in the lookup, there's the values that I've typed. They're chosen from a semicolon separated list. And they appear as I pull down. And the appointments, I wanted to make that simpler, go to design of that. I decided to make the selectable values to come from a query of the treatment cost table, because that has all my treatments listed. And the only goofy thing about that is the way that they're sorted. If I had 2-digit numbers in the treatment cost table, if I used 2 digits in the decimal, then they would sort correctly. This is just the way that databases, when you sort things, they come out this way, because alphabetical sorting. All right, and that's it for part 1 of Project 3.